This is Barbara Ellistad with Mesquite Citizen Journal, and we're here this afternoon with Karen Fielding, who is running for Mesquite City Council this year.
Seat 5.
Seat 5. So give us a little bit of background about you.
So I moved to Mesquite in 1995, so I've been here 25 years. Raised my kids here, my 3 kids. My youngest is now a senior at Virgin Valley High School. My oldest is a registered nurse. I'm just working right now at UMC in the pediatric department. When I was raising my kids, I've always been involved in Mesquite, whether it be fundraisers or the kids or volunteering. It's kind of what I wanted to do. Mesquite was small when I moved here, 3,270 people.
Yeah.
So it was easy to get involved and then continue to be involved with the community. So I have seen Mesquite grow from 3,270 to the 22,000 approximately.
A little bit of change there along the way.
Yeah, just a little bit. I'm still involved with the community. I love this community. I'm very passionate about the city of Mesquite and its future. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit why I'm running for city council again.
Okay. Yes, I should note for the public that you ran for city council in 2018, and here you are back.
Here I am. Yeah.
Okay. I did ask you this question. I'm going to divert a little bit from what I've asked the other candidates. I asked you this question in 2018, and I have to say you really took it to heart, because the question is it's often noted that city council candidates are only seen in meetings and activities once they place their name on the ballot. And the rest of the question that I've asked the other candidates, it goes on to say you've not regularly attended a lot of the meetings and activities associated with government.
Right.
You took that to heart when I asked that question in 2018, because I've seen you at literally every council meeting since then.
That's correct.
Speak to that a little bit.
So, you hit it right on the nail on the head when you asked me that, and my reply was, I can watch it from home. You can watch the video. And I did that, and I just don't think I got as much out of the city council meetings watching it at home or watching the videos. I like to hear things firsthand, and that way it gives me the opportunity. If I'm sitting there and I want to speak, I can get right up there and speak. It's a little bit late after the fact if you have a comment, and so I really did take that to heart, and I have been to almost every city council meeting. I'm at every tech review. Any other meeting that has to do with the city, time allowed, then I will be at. But city council, it's really important to be there firsthand and take notes. And I think I learned better being right there the first time than watching the video. And that's why it's easier for me now, since my son is going to be graduating, to go to meetings. I don't have little ones at home that I have to chase around or dinner or get ready for bed. I can be there and I can spend 100% of my time at those meetings and attending. So
I'm going to take the second part of this question and kind of move it around a little bit, if you will.
Okay.
So how do you convey confidence that you're familiar with the issues and are able to make decisions and solve problems because you do go to the meetings?
So how do I turn them around and solve issues?
Well, how do you convey confidence to the public that you're familiar with the issues now and are able to make decisions and solve problems? Right.
Well, some of the issues I know firsthand. And I feel very confident about that because I have been here for 25 years. I've been probably involved since 2007, so the last 13 years with the Chamber of Commerce and City Council and the City of Mesquite. But I know things firsthand, so I feel very confident when I get up and I speak on some things. I do research the items, the resolutions, if there's any questions. I've talked to staff before, hey, can you explain this to me? And they are quite accommodating. So I'm pretty confident about what I know, what I've heard before.
Okay. The city is now facing the biggest budget challenge because of the business shutdown associated with the COVID-19 crisis. So the next few questions pertain to that subject. It's possible the city could lose up to 40% of its revenues over the next year.
Right.
Since almost 80% of the budget is spent on employee salaries and benefits, how do you anticipate bridging that gap if you're elected to the council?
Well, there's a few things. Our budget's about, well, it's not about, it's $24.5 million. After looking at the budget for last year, almost $25 million is our budget. $10 million is salary. I think what we're doing is we're spending some money, and the first thing I would probably do is research and look into the MRED, Mr. Red, Mesquite Region Economic Development.
We're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay, and look at costs there. Okay. There's some other things that I think that we couldn't cut. Public safety is first and foremost. I know that they've already been cutting some revenues right now.
Okay.
There's some other things that the city can cut, in my opinion, and then there's some things that I believe the city could sell. For instance, some vacant land to some developers, to get some of that money back. So, it might be a loss, but I have some ideas that probably could, put us a little bit better position with some of my ideas.
Okay. If you had only two choices, which would be your first and second? Laying off employees to help bridge a budget gap, or asking all current employees to take a 10% pay cut? Which of those would be your first choice?
Wow, that's such in the city employees?
City employees.
That's really a hard question because I don't want to put anybody out of work. If they are laid off and eligible for unemployment, that would make me a little happy that they would get some income. I guess we'd have to talk to the employees and ask them what would work best for them. If we had to reduce their salary, those are both great, viable, reasons. I'm really not sure. I guess I would have to talk to more people about what worked best last time, because we did see the same revenue decreasing several years ago, and that's when we closed on Fridays and worked 4-hour days. Just to save for utilities and costs. So I'd have to look at those numbers to see which one worked best before I could actually make a decision on that.
Okay. All three union employees, police, fire, and rank and file, are due a 5% pay increase July 1. What would you do about that if you're elected to council?
And I would actually probably just go back to the unions and renegotiate those. I know that they are supposed to get that increase, but if our city doesn't have it, how do we pay it? Are we going to go in a deficit someplace else to pay them? So I think that's something that we'd definitely have to look at and possibly renegotiate that. Because I definitely don't want to lay off any police officers, first responders, by all means. That leaves our community wide open for more insult to injury, I think, if we do that, in my opinion.
Okay. The 4 area schools, the 2 elementaries, the middle school, high school, have been receiving a portion of the cannabis sales tax that the city collects. Are you in favor of keeping that going or cutting it altogether in the current budget situation?
So Barbara, I've raised my 3 kids and all these kids in all the schools except for Bunkerville. Education is quite important. And so if we're getting that cannabis money and it's going to the schools and it's coming to us, I would say keep spending it, keep allowing it to go to the schools. if I had a way to increase those funds, because I know that the income for the cannabis is quite larger than they expected it to be in the very beginning. If there were to come a day where we can increase that, I would like to look at that possibility as well.
Okay. Overall, what are your top 3 revenue and expense priorities for FY 2020 and 2021 budget? So 3 revenue priorities and 3 expense priorities.
So our 3 top revenues right now are property tax, building permits, and gaming. Right now, those are customary. Those are our 3. We'll have to keep those the same because those are our 3 industries. Building permits, because building continues to grow in Mesquite, and then the gaming, because it's room and gaming tax, and then I still see those as our 3 top revenues. Our expenditures. Say that again.
Your top 3 expense priorities for
Okay,
the
so if
upcoming budget.
So looking at the budget just recently, where we talked about the expenses right now are salary. The other expenses that I would definitely look into, or if I had an expense that I'd want to put on the next budget, whether it be on there or not, something that I've looked into for the last few years. The biggest expense would be replacing station number 1. If you've walked through the fire station 1, it was built in 1974. It has been used as a medical facility. It's been used as a daycare, and now we house our first responders in there. The roof looks like it's fallen in, the carpet needs to be replaced, and it's not adequate to service our first responders. So that would probably be my top expense priority, to take care of our own. And I know that they'll probably could look into some grants to help as well. But if we're going to expect them to go to work for us 24 hours a day, 2 days a week, I definitely want them to be comfortable and not worried about the surroundings.
Okay. And what's your other expense priorities?
Well, I'd have to think about that. Okay. I think that would be my top one. The second one would probably, if it's an expense priority, is probably just look into some more incentives for the city of Mesquite. Maybe spend some money to get some money back. That's, I guess, the only thing that I can think of right now on the spot, sorry.
Okay. Everybody gets nervous with these interviews, trust me, everybody does. What are your thoughts on future funding of Mesquite Regional Economic Development Organization? And you spoke to that a few minutes ago.
Yes.
And should the current council reduce its funding, increase its funding, or dissolve the organization altogether?
That's a great question. I sit at the updates that they do for city council. I still don't see very many accolades. So it worries me that the city of Mesquite continues to fund something that you don't see accolades. When you're hearing that the senior center is losing $200,000 a year, and something that's so viable and needed in our community as the senior center. Okay. And then we see something that has one win, the red group, that actually didn't turn into a win. It's kind of worrisome to me that we keep spending that money and we're not seeing any return in it. If they are doing something, some accolades, I think I'd like to hear about those more often than not. But at this time, I would suggest dissolving it.
Would you just let it go altogether then, or would you move it back into the city like it used to be years ago?
So I remember when it was back in the city back in 2007. They had a department. I think Aaron Baker was running it back then, and a few other gentlemen were running it. And I think that if the city has more hands-on with it, because it is the city's business development, economic development department, that somebody's got to do it. And if they have to bring it in-house and have somebody that's so motivated, who's willing to get out there and travel to bring business, I would be for bringing it back in-house until at such time that we couldn't do it anymore. But we need something in
Okay.
Mesquite.
Okay.